Good morning and welcome back to the Faith and Formation podcast, your home for a devotional verse every weekday morning. And today it is Thursday, March 26th. And no different here. We have a verse ready for you here this morning. And I'm going to share that here in just a moment. But before we get too far, Brother Sam, you're with me here today. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Brother Andrew?
I am doing very, very well. It's been a good week so far.
Yeah. I know it's a busy week for you guys.
Yes,
for those at temple and the school.
I know it's
Today's
very
a busy
time.
day. Today and tomorrow.
Yep.
So,
Today
still
we get
more
back
ODAX.
to it's ODAX states
Yep.
competitions.
Yep.
So go in there, compete for all of those ODAX schools in Virginia, and a hearty good luck to all of our competitors.
Yes.
Going to the state competition.
I know the teens. I'm pretty sure they know this, but like Virginia is stiff competition. Let me
It
tell
really
you.
is. It is. I hear every year that they do super well.
It always comes down to like for at nationals I guess for AACS competition down at Bob Jones, like every year it's usually like Virginia or Illinois. It was Illinois or Indiana.
I don't know. I've never been.
That are like the big. They're always battling like those two states for like who's gonna take the big cup of all the points or whatever.
Apparently, the last like 5 or 6 years, Virginia has been very dominant with it.
Yes.
Which just tells you that, hey, it's a high level of competition.
Mhm.
So proud of our students, and if they get first or not, still very proud of them.
Absolutely.
Putting out a lot of effort.
A lot of work goes into it.
It's a lot of work. It definitely is. But anyways, to our devotional thought here this morning. It is Thursday, and we actually have a brand new memory verse for the week. For those of you that have not been on here super long, our youth week does not follow the calendar week.
Oh,
yeah, exactly.
I'm just now learning this. No,
oh, really?
Like this
Really?
is a news flash.
Yeah, it starts on. Well, it kind of starts on Thursdays.
It does.
As far as the podcast is concerned, because it feels like Wednesday should be the start day.
Yeah.
But Wednesday is really the end day.
Yeah, because when we're tallying up points and everything else, it ends on Wednesday. To say that Thursday is the first day of the youth week is very weird to the ear.
I have to. Here's what we say: the end point and start point of the last week and the next week is on Wednesday night. So the end point of the last week is on Wednesday night. The start point of the next week is also on that Wednesday night, just right after that.
Okay.
At what point of the night, I'm not exactly sure. But
there's some gray area.
There's a little gray area, but that's what we're going to say.
Any of you have recommendations on the Temple Baptist Youth calendar?
Exactly. If you're
compete
part of
against the Gregorian calendar here to set a new standard.
Yes, we're going to take over the world here. But as far as podcasts go, the start of our week is on Thursday, and we finish up on Wednesday. So all that to say, we have a brand new memory verse starting today, and that comes from 2 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 17. It says this: "Now the Lord is that Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty." 2 Corinthians 3 verse 17. A very, very good verse. People are very confused about really what liberty and freedom is. But one thing you can say for sure is that if the Spirit of God is there, there's going to be liberty. All right, our verse for this morning comes from 1 Timothy chapter 6. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but it's also verse 6. 1 Timothy 6:6, it says there, very short and sweet, "But godliness with contentment is great gain." 1 Timothy 6:6. Brother Sam, when you read through this verse and chapter, what did you see?
Yeah, so Paul is writing to Timothy and giving him all kinds of great spiritual advice, as a father would to his son. Even, Paul says that at the beginning of the chapter, says, to Timothy, my own son in the faith.
Right.
And if you look through the beginning of the chapter of chapter 6, he's talking and giving some other advice, talking about people being proud and all kinds of other evil, attributes that people would have. And then to verse 5, the end of verse 5 is where I'm going to start. And we'll go through a few verses here just to kind of give the context, because I think it's really good. Paul says through verse 5, talking about perverse disputings of men with corrupt minds that are destitute of the truth, supposing that gain is godliness. And he tells Timothy, from such withdraw thyself.
Mm.
But godliness with contentment is great gain. In verse 7, for we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can bring nothing, or we can carry nothing out. And in verse 8, he says, and having food and raiment, let us be therewith content.
Yeah.
That verse there, I feel like those couple of verses kind of summarize what verse 6 also kind of summarized, which was godliness with contentment is great gain. You're
Yeah.
saying, okay, so it's good to be godly. That is great gain to your spiritual life.
Mhm.
Okay. But what does that really look like? Um, I think it is extremely important. Just it's opposite of like the mindset and the current of the pool of the world and the culture that we're in as
Yeah.
Americans.
Yeah.
Verse 8 even is convicting of saying, having food and raiment, let us be there with
Yeah.
content.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Paul is telling Timothy, hey, did you eat today? Hey,
Right.
your shoes not falling off of you?
Yeah.
You have holes in your shirt.
Right.
Okay, like are you good? Okay, then be content because
Yeah.
God's provided those things for you. And for us, I think it's, kind of crazy because sometimes we can pitch a fit when, we go to Chick-fil-A and they're out of Chick-fil-A sauce. And
Yeah,
we're like,
exactly.
oh, well, this is my day's ruined.
Right.
And it's like, okay, we have so much to be thankful for.
Yeah.
So it's not just that though, but it's Paul is trying to tell Timothy, hey, contentment and godliness in conjunction with each other are going to bring you such gain into your life, not just gain as far as like, okay, I'm fulfilled monetarily or whatever, right? Like I'm
Right.
making a lot of money.
Right.
But I think God, when you are godly and you are content with what God has allowed you to have, there's going to be joy that God provides because you are living for him
Mm.
and you're doing what he has said and you recognize the blessings that God has given you. I think that's really important.
Yes. Yes. It's like, seeing the world through a godly lens,
Yeah. I mean,
sort of.
you could have two people that have the exact same, you know, things, the exact same assets.
Circumstances.
If you list it out, in a spreadsheet, hey, this person has this, and
Right.
this in their
Right.
life, both monetarily and circumstances and everything else.
Yeah.
You have two people like that, and one has one mindset and one has another, and you would think that they're, in completely different
Right.
situations
Right.
just by their outlook on life.
Yeah. The Bible tells us that the rain falls on the just and the unjust, which
Mhm.
I think is telling us that, you know, life happens to everybody,
Yeah.
right? Is what it's saying. But at the same time, I think that the just and the unjust, they are either just or unjust, and they're experiencing the same circumstances,
Mhm.
right? Which is exactly what you're saying. But I think that, it's those two things is great gain. I think also that you're gaining, um, yes, you know, we'll gain rewards when we get to heaven. But also, I think spiritually on this earth, you're gaining as well. I think you sort of alluded to that already. But if you are content, it's almost like living a life in which nobody can touch you,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. It's kind of like, it doesn't matter what circumstances are happening, doesn't matter who hates you or loves you, doesn't matter who's going against you or is going with you,
Mhm.
you're content, right? All that stuff's changing around and people can't touch you, It's like no one's gonna be able to affect my spirit because I'm content with where God has me.
Right. Yeah.
No matter what happens, they're not gonna be able to change my spirit. That's what I mean by can't touch me,
Right.
right? They can't change my spirit because I'm just content. I'm happy to be where I am, happy with what I have. And
Yeah, and
then
it's trust in the Lord too, right? Because it's that
yes.
contentment of knowing even you might have other desires for your life of, man, this would be really cool if I got this job
Right,
or
right.
I was able to move here or do whatever. But if you've prayed about it and God has said, "Hey, that's not what I have for you right now," or whatever, and you say, "Okay, God, I'm going to trust you." There's contentment in that, even if you
Exactly.
don't understand why, even if it's
Exactly.
not necessarily what your, I guess, original heart's desire was, because as you grow closer to Christ, you're going to be coming more and more in line with what he wants for your life. You'll be on the same wavelength, so to speak,
Yeah.
as you get closer to him.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and
I think that's what gain is that he's speaking of.
yeah,
That gain, it's like you've gained a better Christian life, sort of. You've gained that better, um, way of living.
mhm,
You've that's a better way to put it.
yeah,
You've gained a better way of living, right? If you live discontented and all over the place, being content and being godly, you've now gained a much more spiritual, much more stable, way of living your life. And then, of course, the godliness that's listed in the beginning of the verse there, which godliness just means being like God,
yeah,
godly,
mhm,
right? Which, of course, is to its fullest extent impossible, but it's something for us to be striving at, which I think again is reflected in that we continue to strive, and as we make steps we've gained sort of that better way of living as a Christian. Bam, I'm continuing to gain, and this is something that anybody can do, whether you're 5 or 95.
yeah,
You can continue to try and be more godly and continue to gain in this life. It's kind of like some people could think, well, it's pointless to try and be godly and pursue, you can never attain it, right? It's like chasing something you'll never get to,
mhm,
which on the one hand seems like it's terrible because you're never actually going to get there. But on the other hand, it also gives you always a place to grow.
yeah. There's always
Always.
a place to get better. I mean, you think of anybody in sports. You
Yes.
find a guy that in any sport has said, "Hey, I've arrived."
Yeah.
They're gonna tank because
Exactly.
they're not pushing
Yeah.
themselves anymore. And
Yeah.
the same way, that's why we look and keep our eyes on Christ as that source of perfection, realizing we'll never make it there. But if our eyes are fixed on Him and we're heading that direction, then by His grace, we're going to
Yeah.
slowly get closer to Him
Yeah.
through that process.
It's like being happy with where you are physically and being ready to push yourself spiritually.
Yeah.
I think you kind of maybe put it that way. Um, and there's always more to push to. Have you ever put a model together, like a little model
Yeah.
airplane or a
Yeah.
boat or a car or
Yeah.
something? Um, I've done a number of those, and always when I do it, it's a lot of fun, having a good time, you're putting it together, whatever. And then when it's finished, you have this, like, there's a sense of accomplishment, yes, which is
Mhm.
satisfying. But then after that, it's kind of like, all right, what do I do now?
Yeah.
I just stick it on the shelf,
Mhm.
you know? The the putting it together, the building it, the growing, whatever it is over now. And if you ever get to the point where you're all put together, right, then where do you go from there?
Yeah.
You're just gonna get stuck on a shelf.
Spoiler alert, we never will be because
Yes, exactly. You're never actually gonna be there. But if you think you are in your mind, then you
Right.
sort of are like that completed model. You don't have anywhere else to grow to. You're gonna cease to be that godly person.
Yeah.
Wow, I feel like we could talk about this for hours.
Yeah.
What a great topic. Um, and all from just those few words in that verse.
Yeah,
Uh,
and Paul, this is something that, I see Paul, as a spiritual figure in Timothy's life, just trying to say, like, plead with him, like, hey, like, you got to get this, Timothy, because, he wrote in other places, I know both how to be abased and I know how to abound.
yeah, right, right.
Everything I'm instructed, both to be full and to be hungry, both to
Yeah,
abound as a suffer need. I can do all things through Christ, though. And
exactly.
so he says all that to say, listen, like, God's blessed. And then there have been other periods of time where I've been, in situations where I haven't had as much. But guess what?
Yeah.
God is faithful through it all. And as
Mhm.
long as you keep your eyes fixed on Him, that's gonna be gain. I mean, Paul says, "For me to live is Christ and to die is gain." Like, you see
Exactly.
the same mindset of
Yeah.
Paul throughout, all the books that he's written. So,
So, so true.
um, yeah, very great encouragement for us to have
Yes.
someone to strive to be like, which is Christ,
Yeah.
and, something to try to emulate, which is, being content in Him.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so true. And that's really true gain, as is mentioned there, great gain in that verse. All right. Well, I guess that's about a wrap on our devotional here this
Yeah.
morning. Honestly, wish we had more time. That was a lot of fun. I hope that you enjoyed it as well. As you go to prayer this morning, closing things off here, spend a little extra time praying for your family this morning, those that you know and love. so well. And then also, specifically for our teenagers, we're praying for Cheatham this morning. Thank you again to all of you for being a part, listening to the podcast. I hope that you enjoy these episodes that we put out. We certainly do. Thanks again to all of you who are faithful listening. Have a great rest of your Thursday, and we'll see you next time.